a whole lot of efforts made towards biometric data capture. But you see, you've had a multiplicity of efforts. INEC will want to do its own. The telecommunications companies will want to do their own for the SIM card. The banks are currently doing their own now. Meanwhile, we have a National Identity Management Commission, which should have been a clearinghouse for all these things. They do it, any agency that wants. Even the road safety also does its own biometric capture for driver's license. Multiplication of efforts, expenditure of resources, which could be harnessed, and between the private sector, the banks and telecommunications, and the public sector, the road safety and the Identity Management Commission, we can have an INEC to everything can be rehearsed in one place. So with one card, you want to open an account in the bank, it's probably all your data comes in. You want to vote, you put it in, everything shows and that you are.
But where in the world do we find that happening? Which countries in the world currently use that strategy and we see it working?
I don't know. Sorry if I can come here.
Yes.
I think in places like the United States, everybody has a unique identity code.
Yeah, but not one card.
No,
we don't use your social security card.
No. I don't think the issue is whether we're using one card or not. The issue is for people's identity to be established. The problem we have in Nigeria, I mean, the other time the Chibok girls were kidnapped, it took like almost 3 months before we could ascertain the identity of the girls that were taken. In Borno State, we hear regularly.
It didn't take 3 months to ascertain
the identity of the girls, the actual identity before they were published in the newspapers.
No, it's because people.
So I didn't say 3 months. I know it took about 3 weeks, not 3 months. Sorry, it's 3 weeks before the identities were fully established. The issue is, if you take a child from somebody's home, it shouldn't be difficult for you to establish the identity of that child. So you can imagine in a situation like that, and then we're talking about a nation. Officially, we say we're about 170 million. We could be more. And yet we don't have an identity system. So if you don't have that infrastructure, how are you going to build the electronic voting system? That electronic voting system is not a foundational structure. It's something you build on a substructure. So the substructure is non-existent. And I'm happy that I think recently the National Council of State held a meeting. And in that meeting, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, they were actually talking about moving on to the Nigerian identity, which is quite commendable. The Nigerian identity, according to the National Council of State, is based on the fact that since various states are now carrying out their own registration exercise, they felt that it would create a kind of conflict, because some states are here in the east were actually targeting non-residents as a way of distinguishing between who was an indigene of a particular state and who is not an indigene of that particular state. But the National Council of State came out to say, you know what, we want a single identity for Nigeria. Once we agree that national identity is more important than ethnicity, or whether you are a settler or whether you are an indigene, you have created the basis for pursuing a national identity. And then once you can have a proper registration of Nigerian citizens, then nobody has any reason to inflate figures.
How many years are we away or closer to having what you're talking about?
I would think that we need to thank Boko Haram for that, because it's the level of disruption that Boko Haram has brought to the system that we are realizing that that we need to go beyond this present conflict of, you know, settler and non-settler that has plagued states like Plateau. And then recently we are hearing states in the southwest announce that they are abolishing discriminatory fees, whether you are an indigene of a particular state or you're not an indigene of a particular state. I think Lagos has done that. Ogun just announced that. And if we can have more states doing that, then we can suddenly realize that being a Nigerian citizen is more important than being an indigene or non-indigene or a settler or non-settler. Now, when you have that kind of environment and we decide to pursue a national identity, then people don't have any reason to inflate population figures. So once we can have the proper identity, then you can issue people with proper identification cards, and then we can talk about introducing an electronic voting system, because we recognize that the person who has that particular identity or who goes forward to vote is the person who he or she claims to be. And then you can have a thorough system so that once you clock in, it happens in the states. They don't even need to wait for the counting of the votes. They can actually take a poll of people going in, and they give you the exit poll to say, based on our indicators and the people we talk to, we think 70% of the voters are likely to vote, and they can tell you. And those who are counting the votes now recognize that because the press has given an accurate reading of the voters going in to vote, they are able to get results much more faster. That improves the system and ensures that we have better results.
Okay. Now, if I can come back to you, Mr. Johnson, when you look at the structure of our political parties across the country and the way they react to election results, what's your thought in terms of people having expectation that we will have more firemen who will come out and say, well, if the people have spoken, and this is their decision, that this person is voted out, then yes, we want to congratulate this person. This happens in other climes. Why would it be difficult for it to happen in Nigeria? Are we bad losers?
You know, in Nigeria we don't have leaders, we have dealers.
Okay.
We have political dealership and not political leadership. We are short of leaders. We are practicing politics without ideology. You see somebody in APC today is in PDP tomorrow, is in PDP tomorrow, next tomorrow is in APC. They are all just looking forward to, and like Presley said, the moment you win an election, you sit on large amount of money. So basically, you see, because there's no clear-cut ideology as regards our politics, it is just politics of personal interest, and people can whip up ethnic sentiment, religious sentiment, all on the basis of winning an election. For us to have the kind of gracious
Losers
like Fahmy demonstrated in Ekiti State, I'm not sure. You know, even during the course of Osun State election, during the course of the election, you see the eventual winner started discrediting the process live. We saw it live on TV. The result has not. It was about discrediting the outcome of an election that will eventually lead to his victory. Are you getting my point? So to a large extent, the present crop of political class that we have, can we compare them with the class of Aulo? Can we compare them with the class of Azikwe? Can we compare them with the class of the 60s? No, not at all.
So what impact do you think the conduct of some of the candidates could have on the overall election?
As Gina was just saying, the absence of ideological leaning, mixes up our entire political engagement in this country today. People don't even really come to serve. People come to get into office, as Kingsley said, to sit on a pile of resources which they will now distribute according to their whims. There's no, between the parties, we have now PDP, APC, the major parties. You see people shifting from one party to the other. The other day, a couple of governors of PDP went into APC. And there's no change in terms of ideological leaning, no change in terms of programs, no change in terms of what they are doing. So between the two parties, there's virtually no difference. Virtually no difference.
Putting it another way, same difference.
If I can borrow that from you, then the issues about who is going to get the ultimate prize, the presidency. That's what people are jostling about. The politics of the stomach, and not the politics of service.
Okay, we have to wrap up now. So your final word, I'll start with you, Kingsley. Can you address your final word to Nigerians? Because at the end of the day, they are at the end the ones that will be most impacted. What will be your word to them in preparation for 2015?
I don't think they should continue looking at what has happened in Osun and Ekiti. The voters have spoken. I've never seen Nigerian voters as more assertive as we've witnessed in Osun and Ekiti. And because they came to the party, that in a way moderated the outcomes of the election. So we would expect that same show of support in each of the coming elections, especially in 2015, for us to get better results.
Okay, Chicks.
Yes, I think INEC is on the way. They are making good progress. From one election to the other, we see signs of improvement. And I believe that the somber predictions of 2015 becoming our albatross will not play out.
Okay, Jide.
We should vote for candidates and programs they have on offer and not parties. Our politics is based on party. The moment you secure, and that's why we see the politicians fight for the more tougher than the main election, because the moment they win the ticket of one party in a particular state, the rest is history. But we should vote for candidates, because 16 years down the line, what have we gone to show from Lagos to Sokoto? We should vote for candidates based on their manifesto and program they have on offer. And that's what we used to measure them at the end of 4 years.
Thank you very much. And I'll start with you, Jide Johnson, Head of Department Mass Communication, Nigeria Institute of Journalism. Thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
And thanks to you too, Chooks Nwagbo, Policy Analyst and Strategic Management Consultant, and of course Kingsley Mose, who's a lawyer and Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So we'll take a short break now. We'll take some messages, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation here on Sunrise.